Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the show. I was really enjoying that music. It is springtime. It's springtime. Hey, hopefully you had a great weekend and a great Monday. I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. If you're new to the show, that's Wood with an E, and the E stands for endocrinology. Here, I help to educate you, I help to empower you, and I help to encourage you to take charge of your health, avoid complications, and live a healthy, fulfilling life. Tonight, we are talking about diabetes. Are you at risk for diabetes? That's the question we're going to be talking about as we get into the show tonight. That's a new piece of music that we had tonight, and as we always say, that we are powered by Epidemic Sound. That's one that I grabbed, and I actually spliced two different pieces of music together to mix that. So that was a pretty cool one. I sent that to my cousin earlier this week. He said, "Hey, that's a nice one." So glad that you are here. Shout out to Epidemic for providing that for us. If you are new, we love to welcome you to the community. So go ahead and put new in the comments so that we can say hello to you properly. Just make sure you do that. Also, as we go through the night, if you have questions, put those in the comments as well with a Q in front of the question. And we'll know that that's one that we need to grab and we need to pay particular attention to. So once again, diabetes is what we're talking about. Let's see who's out there right now. So we've got, so of course, Maria's saying hi to everybody. Hey, Maria, how are you? Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Whoo, she says. And I think Maria was enjoying the music. She said, dancing with the music, Dr. Wood. It's springtime. That's right. It is springtime on, let's see, yesterday. Okay. First day of spring, right? On the 20th. Today's the 21st. So, we've been in, of course, everybody's talking about COVID and so forth, but everybody's been in and the sun is shining, the weather is getting warmer, and we encourage you to get out and to spend time with your family in the outdoors, right? So make sure that you're doing that. Spring is here. And the music, of course, makes you kind of think and make you feel like you want to dance. I think we should do a show where we just do music, right? Just play music and maybe we get some people on, we could dance together. That's part of health, right? That's part of what we do, right? We're educating, we're empowering, and we're encouraging. So health involves movement. So I think music would be a good one to do that. And then let's see. I think Shanks. I don't know if you pronounce that name for me, but hello, welcome, CEO of this company account. All right. Well, glad that you're here. And Maria, of course, is saying hello. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's get into it. So diabetes, when we think about diabetes, right, there is a lot of angst that goes with the discussion of and the talk of diabetes. In fact, there are, and I think when I did a show maybe a year ago or maybe even 6 months ago, I said there were 34.2 million people in the United States with diabetes. We've got to update that number. Over 37 million people with diabetes. Huge. And a little over 90 million people with pre-diabetes. So if we put that all together, we're talking about over 100 million people in the United States alone that are living with diabetes and pre-diabetes. A lot of folks. Now, to put that even into a bigger perspective, around the world, there are 422 million people that currently have diabetes, and 1.5 million deaths every year is attributed to diabetes or are attributed to diabetes. That's a lot. That's a big burden. And so the reason that we are interested in diabetes is not just because we're concerned necessarily about blood sugar. We're concerned because it's taking a huge toll in mortality and morbidity. That is complications of diabetes and ultimately leading to death. All right. So that's why we're concerned about diabetes, because it is a huge, huge, huge issue, and it continues to get more and more and more. And we're seeing bigger and bigger numbers of people that are starting to develop diabetes. And so when we think about diabetes, the question that we want to ask is, are we at risk? Are you at risk for diabetes? Because if we can catch it early, then we can do something about it to prevent the progression to diabetes, and ultimately to decrease the burden that we're seeing in cost of life, cost of finances. Huge issue that we have. We've not used the word yet, and I'm going to say it, right? We've not used the word yet, epidemic, pandemic with diabetes. But it is, folks, we're there, right? 422 million people that are living around the world with diabetes. And so the question, are you at risk? Are you at risk for diabetes? And so we're going to go through some of that here tonight. And go ahead and, like I said, put those questions in the comments. If you know someone who has diabetes, if you know someone who is living with some complications or some of the risk factors, go ahead and send them the link to this show. Like this show tonight. Give us a thumbs up and send it to your family, send it to your friends, because it's one of those conversations that I think we need to have on a larger scale if we're ever going to get a handle on this disease. All right? Okay. So let's go through and let's talk about diabetes. So the diabetes culminates because of several factors that lead to the development of the disease. And so there are several things that we can talk about, and several ways that people talk about the breakdown of the things that we're going to talk about, right? So we could talk about modifiable or non-modifiable things or risk factors. And so modifiable are the things you can't change. So the things that you can change, and non-modifiable things you can't change. So things that you cannot change that are risk factors, your age. As we get older, our predisposition, our chances, our risk of getting diabetes goes up, right? We can't change the age. In fact, they recommend, the current recommendation is that once you turn 45, aside from other risk factors, that everyone should be screened for diabetes. The majority of people who are 65 and older, right, that have certain risk factors are diabetics, right? They develop diabetes. So we want to make sure that as we age that we're looking at. So that's one that you can't really change. Now, if you find, right, if you find the fountain of youth, please make sure you share it with me. Okay. Yes, I do want to be around for a long, long time. So if you find it, right, send some my way. But we can't modify that. We can't change our families, right, and the genetic milieu that we inherited from them. So we can't change our family. So that's something that's already set. Okay. We can't change our ethnicity, and that goes along with family, right? So there are certain ethnic populations that have a predisposition to diabetes. African Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, well, Asians in general, right? But particularly as we get into the United States, right? So some of the Western American lifestyle can change some of their makeup. Okay. Hispanic, Latin American folks of descent, those folks are predisposed, or they have a larger burden for diabetes. Okay. So those are things that we cannot change. But there are some things that we can change, and we're going to spend a lot of our time tonight talking about some of those things. So let's take a break for a minute, and let's see who else is here. Has anybody joined us? So Maria, continue to be here. Let's see. Let's back up a little bit. Let's see. So we've got Grace. Hey, Grace, how are you? Good to see you. Let's get that up there. Grace, say hello, everybody. Hey, what's up? Lanita. Hey, Lanita, how are you? Welcome. Glad that you are here. And then, of course, Maria saying hello to Grace and Lanita. And here are two of my favorite people. What's up? Hey, Ashley, and hey, Ella. What's up? Yeah, Ella, look at her. She's so cute, isn't she? And then, of course, Maria again saying hello to everyone. Glad that you're here. So I do have a question. So I'm going to, hold on to this one. So Shanks, I think is the name, Shanks. I'm going to grab your comment, and I'm going to keep it, right? Because we're going to come back to that. So once again, guys, put a Q in front of it, just like Shanks did, so that I know that that is a question, and we will hold on to that as we get into the night. And then, of course, Florence is saying hello to everyone. She says, hi, everybody. Glad that you are here. Florence. Awesome. There we go. All right. So let's get back to our conversation, right? So we just talked about, the non-modifiable things, right? So age, race, family history, and so forth. But there are some things that we can modify. And let's go through that list. All right. So the first that we want to put on the list, and it really kind of couches everything, a lot of what we're going to talk about. So that is weight and lifestyle. Now, the comment about lifestyle, and I never really liked that, so lifestyle, but what that means is certain things that we do in our lives that put us at increased risk. Okay, so let's kind of walk through that. So number one, a sedentary lifestyle. What does that mean? That means that you're not getting a whole lot of exercise. You're not getting a whole lot of movement other than in the normal course of your day. All right. So you get up in the morning, you get in the car, or you may walk to work. You are in the office most of the day, and, maybe walking back and forth within the building. And then you get out and then you go home. So sedentary lifestyle, right? Now, and that has to do a lot with what we do as occupations, right? So if you are someone who, like I have a guy who he takes care of lawns. I mean, he's out there, he's mowing the lawn. That's his business, right? So he's getting a lot of activity. So I would not put him in a sedentary lifestyle category, right? So if you know that you're a sedentary lifestyle, then that puts you at increased risk. Okay. And there are some things that we can do about that. Weight, obesity, right? And being overweight. Check your BMI. The current recommendation is a BMI of 25 or lower is normal, right? And higher than that puts you at increased risk the higher you get. And we'll talk about a tool here in a little while that kind of helps you that. They have these BMI charts. Okay. If you are heavier than your listed weight for your height on the BMI chart, then that puts you at increased risk for diabetes. All right. If you have a history of high blood pressure or hypertension, that's another one that puts you at increased risk for diabetes. And we'll see that a lot of these disease processes that we're talking about, a lot of these lifestyle things, can lead to, and I'm going to say them, pre-diabetes metabolic syndrome, and those ultimately lead to diabetes, okay? So high blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, that's something that you want to make sure that you're taking care of, right? Because that puts you at increased risk. But there are so many things that happen with blood pressure. There's so many things that are common between diabetes and obesity, being overweight and high blood pressure, right? And they come together sometimes in this concept that we mentioned a little while ago called metabolic syndrome. Okay, so obesity and being overweight. If you have a family history of diabetes, so this is not necessarily just, this family, right? I'm part of this family. But if people have family members who have diabetes, that now puts you at increased risk for diabetes. In fact, I think the statistic is that if you have one person in your family that has diabetes, your risk of developing diabetes goes up by 50%, right? That's huge, right? So there are things that we can do that we can help to modify. If you had gestational diabetes, that's another one, right? So gestational diabetes, as we talk about moms who are gestational, we talk to them, we talk to all women about making sure that they're maintaining good weight, right? Now, we don't tell people a lot to go run and do all this stuff to lose weight, right? Because we want the baby to grow at a particular rate. We want the baby to be healthy. But if we're more than that weight, if we're putting on more weight than that, then that can be an issue, right? If you've had a baby that's 9 pounds or bigger, then that puts you at increased risk for diabetes. And in fact, I think it's 50% of women who have gestational diabetes will go on to develop diabetes. So making sure that we're doing, we'll talk about some of the things here in a minute, about what some things that we can do to help minimize some of what we're discussing. So let's back up for a minute. And I said that, the recommendations are that at 45 years of age, that everyone begins getting screened, and it should be screened every 3 years. And there are a lot of people who are talking about and saying, hey, maybe we should screen earlier and then we should screen more often. The 45, if you have risk factors, then the screening probably should be before 45. Okay. All right. So don't use the 45 years of age. That's the age I'm talking about. Don't use that to say, oh, I'm 38, so I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. If you have other risk factors, then 45 goes by the wayside. Right. And you should be getting screened for diabetes. Okay. So we talked about gestational diabetes. We talked about having bigger babies. Okay, let's talk about cholesterol. So cholesterol comes in 3 different components that you will see. Well, more than 3, but most likely you'll see 3 different pieces on your report when you get your labs. That's the total cholesterol. Actually, 4: total cholesterol, HDL or high density lipoprotein, LDL, triglycerides. Okay. And then you'll see some other VLDL and some other ones that may be on your chart. Right. So, but the ones that I want to talk about is total cholesterol, LDL, and HDL. So total cholesterol, if your total cholesterol is elevated, and we like that to be below 200, if it's elevated, that puts you at increased risk for diabetes. If your LDL or bad cholesterol is high, right, above 150, then that puts you at increased risk for diabetes. If your good cholesterol is the one, and the way I kind of describe good cholesterol to people is there's all this stuff kind of hanging out in your blood, and that's has the potential to cause problems. So clogging of the arteries, right? So that term. And so the good cholesterol essentially is like a rotor-rooter, right? And it goes out and it grabs up all the bad cholesterol, right? So that's what the good cholesterol is. And so if it's low, then you don't have as many rotor-rooters that are out there trying to clean up your arteries, right? So the lower it goes, the worse it is. Okay. So the bad cholesterol, we already know, right? It's out there and it's causing problems. It's clogging everything up. And now the good cholesterol comes and kind of cleans it up. So having a high bad cholesterol and a low good cholesterol, right? That's not what we want. We want a high good cholesterol, low bad cholesterol. And then triglycerides. If your triglycerides are elevated, and I didn't tell you numbers. So bad cholesterol, we like that to be below 100. Good cholesterol, 40 or higher for men, and 50 or higher for women. And then triglycerides. Now, triglycerides, these are ones that people sometimes get confused about. So the triglycerides are part of what is the storage form of your cholesterol, right? And so these are things that are very volatile. What do I mean by that? If you go to the lab, say you're getting your blood work in the morning, right? And I were able to check your blood work before you left the house. Okay, and your triglycerides say, and I'm going to use some numbers. These aren't real numbers. I'm just going to use them as an example. Say the triglycerides are 100. Okay, and on the way to the lab, you drank coffee with cream, and you got to the lab, and they checked your triglycerides. Those triglycerides may now be 150. Right, so very volatile. So they change quickly. Right. So, and these are ones, the higher they are, the more they kind of indicate that you are at risk for other things. And one of the things is diabetes. Okay. Fatty liver. Fatty liver is one that is very, very concerning. The liver is the organ more than others, right? So the liver and muscle and pancreas are probably the 3 organs that are most involved with blood sugar. And now, we've got kidneys and so forth, right? But the liver stores sugar in the form of glycogen. The liver releases sugar, right? And so as we're taking in more, we'll come into that in a minute. As we're taking in more and more sugar, carbs, and is being converted, then we can start to develop fatty liver. And as we develop fatty liver, that puts us at increased risk for developing diabetes. Okay, so that's huge. Okay, so let's see. I think I saw some folks kind of hanging out there. Let's see who else has joined us. Let's see. So we got Ashley, of course. Maria. Oh, here's one. Oh, we said hi to Florence. And Hazel. Hello, Hazel. How are you? Welcome. I love your little smiley face there. Love your little smiley face. Love it, Hazel. All right. So we talked about, and those are all risk factors, right? Those are all risk factors for diabetes. And one that sometimes you see or you hear is this thing called acanthosis, right? Acanthosis nigricans. And acanthosis is kind of a changing of the skin, typically under the arms, under the folds. So under the arms, the elbows, the knuckles, around the neck, it's kind of a darkening of the skin and it looks almost velvety. And sometimes people will look at the neck and think it's dirty, right? That like your kid hasn't washed or someone hasn't washed, they're not taking care of themselves. And what it is actually a marker or a sign of what we call insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is a condition where your body is making, quote unquote, an appropriate amount of insulin, but for some reason the body can't, or the pancreas is making an appropriate amount of insulin, but the body can't use it effectively. And so the body begins making more and more and more insulin. And that process is what kind of helps lead to diabetes, prediabetes, and then ultimately to diabetes. Okay. So acanthosis nigricans. All right. So now the other one, and we did a video on this several weeks ago, or several months ago, actually, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a syndrome that occurs in women where they have polycystic, many cysts in their ovaries, right? They have oligomenorrhea, which is decreased numbers of menstrual cycles. They have insulin resistance, okay? And hyperandrogenism. So hyperandrogenism, androgens are male hormones. So polycystic ovarian syndrome, so overactive, too much male hormones. So once again, they have these cysts on their ovaries. They have oligomenorrhea, or decreased numbers of menstrual cycles, and they have too much male hormone. And sometimes you'll see that they'll start to develop hirsutism, or hair growth in uncommon places, right? So they start to develop hair on their chin, on their face, on their chest, on their abdomen, on their backs. Okay. And so polycystic ovarian syndrome is one of those things that can predispose to diabetes, right? All right. And then, right, the big guy. So pre-diabetes itself. So pre-diabetes, oh, let me get some water. How about that? All right. So prediabetes is a condition where your blood sugars are higher than normal, but not high enough to be called diabetes. And so this is where a lot of people kind of surf, right? They find themselves, and people will say to me, my doctor told me for the last 3-4 years that I was pre-diabetic, right? Or they'll come in and say, well, my blood sugars, my A1C has always been just a little high, but it's never been in the diabetic range. And ultimately, prediabetes can lead to diabetes. So taking care of prediabetes will huge impact on decreasing progression to diabetes, right? Does that make sense? Awesome. Well, let's do a little station identification here, guys. So, let's put this one up. So I encourage you, if you've not already done so, please go to our social media platforms. We've got LinkedIn, we've got TikTok. Of course, we've got our channel here on Mondays at 7 o'clock. We've got our Twitter that comes out every day. And then also our buymeacoffee.com, buymeacoffee.com. And our email is going to change here in just a little bit. It's going to be dwood at dwaynewoodmd.com. So we'll watch for that. That's coming. I think we'll change that next week. All right. And then if you want to see more of our exciting content, please go to our Twitter. You'll see that, and it comes out every morning at 9 o'clock. Our TikTok, which comes out at 10, and of course here on our channel. And then if you were here last week, you were here for the announcement of our coaching program, Dr. Dwayne Wood, MD Coaching. And there are a couple of options for people as they want to get coaching. Once again, as we're discussing now, right? Sometimes we need help. Right? We need help to help get us unstuck. And we are right now in our channel educating, empowering, and encouraging people to take charge of their health. So if you know someone who needs some help getting unstuck, right, send them to this website. And Maria, if you can put that in the comments, DwayneWoodMD.com, DwayneWoodMD.com. There are two options right now, coaching for diabetes, and also we have life coaching, because sometimes it is not a blood sugar problem. There are other things that are going on that people need some coaching with, and we would love to be a part of what you do and part of helping you get unstuck. All right. So Maria is going to put that DwayneWoodMD.com in the comments for us. Okay. All right. So let's see. And Florence, I see your comment there. I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to hold on to it because we're going to come back and talk a little bit about that. All right. So let's go ahead and let's discuss prediabetes for a minute. Let's go ahead and let's discuss prediabetes for a minute. So there are so many things that prediabetes entails. And I want to here kind of take you along, and I want to take you along for a little trip, right? So I want you to listen. So for a moment, I want you to forget thinking about the body, and I want you to think about an automobile, a car, right? Car. We used to live up in Ohio, and I remember coming out and turning the key. It was cold. Oh, yeah. Well, I grew up in Brooklyn. Then we moved to Ohio, and we were up there while I trained. But I remember coming out in the morning, and you would turn the key, right? And you're getting, and the car wouldn't start, right? And you'd hit the gas a couple of times, and you'd say, right? And the car would start up. If you know anything about cars, and not these new cars, right? So new cars, when I look under the hood, I can't tell what's going on in there. But the old car, you can tell that's the engine right there. That's the carburetor right there. That's the starter. That's the, right? You had all these little components. And if you hit the gas one too many times, what would happen is you would flood the carburetor. And so the car wouldn't start. There's energy in the car, gas. You got the key in the engine and you're turning it, but the car wasn't moving, because what you had done is you had flooded the system. You had flooded the carburetor, and you had to essentially wait until the gas dried out. You know, sometimes people would try to blow it out, right? But you'd sit there like, okay, yeah, I've got to be where I need to be in 10 minutes, but I can't move because the carburetor is flooded. You have to sit there and wait. So when we think about diabetes and leading to diabetes, we've talked about a lot of things right now that can that put you at risk for diabetes. But one of the big things is that we are flooding the system. We're flooding the system, right? Flooding the system. What does that mean, Dr. Wood? So let's back up and let's talk now about what the body uses for energy. The body uses proteins, carbs, and fats. And come next week, by the way, you're going to hear more about that. But let's grab the carbs for a minute. So the body is using carbs for energy, along with the other things. But the carbs are a ready source of energy. And if we're not careful, if we take too many carbs in, then those carbs flood the system. Now, the carbs force the body to make too Well, not too much, make more insulin. So we get that insulin resistance, right? The carbs are causing our triglycerides to go up. And so those triglycerides can predispose us to heart disease. Those carbs, because they're getting converted, those carbs are being stored in the liver as glycogen. And so now our liver is saturated. And so we're flooding the system. So the carbs are a huge part, a huge component of our development of conditions that lead to diabetes and that lead to other complications. So when we talk about carbs, when we talk about prediabetes, when we talk about risk factors, a huge component of that is to make sure that we're watching our diet. Woo! That's right, I said it. Right, watching our diet, right? Because it impacts us so much. Watching our diet. That leads to a lot of the things that we discussed a little while ago. Right? So we've got a sedentary lifestyle. Our weight is up. We're flooding the system with carbs. We become insulin resistant. Our cholesterol goes up. Our triglycerides go up. Our LDL, our bad cholesterol goes up. We get fatty liver. Okay. And all those things right now become a part of what leads to our diabetes. So when we talk about prediabetes, there are some definitions, right? So prediabetes. So once again, blood sugars that are higher than normal, but are not high enough to be considered diabetes. So for the definition of diabetes, if you have a fasting blood sugar of 126 or higher, you're considered diabetic. If you have a 2-hour glucose tolerance test that has a blood sugar of 200 or higher, you're considered to be diabetic. If you have a random blood sugar, right? You didn't eat anything, but you have a random blood sugar of 200 and you have symptoms, then you're considered to be a diabetic. Okay, so that's what diabetes is. Now, prediabetes is just below that. So if your blood sugar is higher, right? So if it's 100, because normal, I'm going to say that. So normal is up to 99. All right. So 100 to 125 will be considered prediabetes. An A1C of 6.5 is considered diabetes. But if your A1C is 5.7 to 6.4, then you're considered to be diabetic. And if you have a 2-hour glucose tolerance, right, that's above 150, but below 200, so 199, then you're considered to be diabetic. Right. So those are the definitions. And so a lot of times people are surfing in that area that's just before they get to diabetes. Right. Yeah, they're right there just before they get to diabetes. And they say, well, I'm not diabetic. Well, we're pretty close and we're there. So we're seeing some of the signs and symptoms in your body already for diabetes. And so we want to make sure that we're going back in the other direction. All right. So let's talk a little bit. So what are we going to do? Right. So what are we going to do? And the whole point of Diabetes Alert Day is to make people aware. Okay. So what we want to do, what I want to challenge you to do is I want you to get tested. I want you to get evaluated, see if you're at increased risk, and to get tested. All right. I want you to make sure that if you have family members as we go through this week, right? The 26th is coming up. Well, today is the 21st. We got 5 days, the 26th, right? Call your family, call your friends, talk to them, let them know, hey, this is coming up. And we're going to give you a website here in a minute. You can send them to the website and we'll link it. We'll link it in our comments, and I'm going to have Maria, not yet, Maria, we'll put that in the comments here in just a minute so that we can begin talking about that. Okay. All right. So that is the risk for diabetes. So if you have any of the things that we've talked about, that puts you at increased risk. And there's a tool that we'll give you in just a minute that will, that they've constructed that allows you to go in and you check some boxes and it gives you a score at the bottom. And that score, will tell you if you're at increased risk. But if you're 45 or over, you should be talking to your doctor. And once again, guys, this is a perfect opportunity for me to make another plug, and for me to make another plug for you to be connected with a healthcare system, a healthcare team, healthcare provider, making sure that you're getting regular checkups, right? Because there's so many times that we if we're not careful, right? So those people are kind of going along all the time. If they have not been connected to the healthcare system, their blood sugars are getting higher and higher and higher. And when they finally present with symptoms, right? They're peeing a lot. They're having poor wound healing. They are having trouble with neuropathy. They're having trouble with their eyes and so many other different things. Or sometimes they show up with a heart attack. One of the most common presentations of diabetes is someone who shows up in a heart attack, right? Or sudden cardiac death, right? In that case, we can't do anything. So I encourage you to make sure that you are with your healthcare provider and you're getting regular checkups, because if we can catch them early, and that is so important, if we can catch it early, there's so much more that we can do. Okay? And we're going to do a show at some point about the carb part, right? Flooding the system, right? Because there are so many things that we've talked about that I think we kind of get away from kind of the real and root cause of diabetes. Now, all the things that we just described are risk factors, right? That predispose you to developing prediabetes and diabetes. All right. But what's the underlying cause? And what is a huge thing that we can do? And that is our diet. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So let's see. Going back to our comments, let's see who we got out there. So Hazel said, what kind of coaching? So Hazel, we've got our diabetes coaching and our life coaching. Diabetes coaching and our life coaching. And let me pop that back up on the screen. Diabetes coaching, drdwaynewoodmd.com. And there's life coaching. People sometimes will need help getting unstuck, not just in their diabetes, but just in life in general. They want a plan. They feel like, everything is up in the air, and we want to help provide a service for that. And then, of course, diabetes coaching, coaching beyond your disease, right? So sometimes, right, okay, we take that insulin, we take that medication, we take this medication, but sometimes people need more than that. They need somebody in their corner to help them kind of figure out how this thing fits into their life. Do you know that a lot of diabetics are depressed? Yeah. One of the things that I didn't mention that also predisposes to prediabetes and diabetes, and we talked about this last week in our show, right? Sleep, poor sleep is a huge one, right? Because remember, it causes those cortisol levels to spike. It causes so many other different things, dysregulation of our ghrelin and our leptin, right? Causes us to have those cravings. Huge, right? Other disease processes and some medications can also cause elevated blood sugars that lead to prediabetes. So for instance, if you have Cushing's disease, right, which is a problem with cortisol that your body makes, too much cortisol, that can predispose you to prediabetes and ultimately lead to diabetes. If you're on certain medications, antidepressants are notorious for causing weight gain, right, and causing elevated blood sugars, and can lead to prediabetes and diabetes. So there are lots of different things, and we already mentioned polycystic ovarian syndrome. Sleep disorders, right, obstructive sleep apnea is a huge one. All those things predispose to diabetes and can cause prediabetes and diabetes. I keep trying to make the distinction there, but ultimately can lead to diabetes. So we want to make sure that we are covering all of those. And once again, so important to have people with their healthcare provider. And I know that was supposed to be an answer to your question there. Lenita. All right, let's see. So we've got Shana, who just came in. Hey, how are you? Welcome. Glad that you are here. And then Maria saying hi. Shana, we like you being here. And then she has a question. Well, I'm gonna flag your question or your comment there, Shauna, and we're going to come back to it here in just a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's go and let's grab some of those questions. Let's see, what do we have? Let me get some water before I do that. So here's one from Shanks, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that properly. Can I get diabetes from eating too much dried sweet fruit such as mangoes? Wow. Well, you guys asked some very good questions. I like that. So when we talk about fruits in general, let me kind of back up for a minute, and we'll kind of zero in on the dried fruits. So when we talk about fruits in general, people sometimes will have two different opinions about fruits. So here's the skinny, as they say. So fruits have sugar in them, right? Fruits have natural sugars in them, but they have sugar. And so what a lot of people, as you hear people talk about fruits, people in the industry, they'll say that fruits are a good source of sugar because the sugar that's in the fruit is offset by the fiber in the fruit. For instance, you eat an apple and you're getting sugar in it, right? Because it's a whole apple, but you're also getting the fiber. And so the fiber delays the absorption of the sugar that's in it. And so you don't get as big a spike. And so that's that kind of glycemic index thing that people talk about. So you're eating sugar, but because there's fiber that's associated with it, you don't get as big a spike. The other thing is that when you eat a whole fruit, you also get the fluids, right? The liquid that's in there, right? So eating an apple, you get the fiber, you get the sugar, and you get the fruit, and you get the water that's in there. When we get dried fruits, not so much, right? Because there's no water in it, and we're still getting the fiber. The sugar may be more concentrated, right? So when we eat that, and please, let's not even talk about the ones where they kind of coat it with some sugar, right? But so I put fruits in the same category as I put all other carbs. Now, those of you who are nutritionists and you're in the lab and you're checking blood sugar in a petri dish and a pie, in a flask or whatever, please don't get mad at me. I'm not trying to knock what we talk about in terms of fiber, all right? But when I'm talking to my diabetic, and they're talking to me about the fiber or the glycemic index of a food, and I'll say to them, the problem is not the fact that you're eating an apple, right? And you're trying to subtract the fiber out of the apple that you're eating. The problem is that we're eating that chocolate cake. So if we get rid of the chocolate cake, guess what? We don't have to worry about fiber in the apple. Okay? Perspective. Okay? I hope that answered your question, Shanks. All right. And then Florence says, my LDL is above the normal range for more than a year now. Okay. And so Florence, as we talk about our cholesterol, all right. So once again, for everybody who's out there are some disease processes that we inherit. That's right. I said it. There's some disease processes that we inherit, but we can do things to minimize them. And the more that we can do, right, making sure that we're eating good fats, right? So, and let me venture into this. I don't have one of my favorite viewers is not on tonight. I know she would enjoy this. But when we talk about fats, right, that's where a lot of people are coming to talk about animal fat, right? Because the animal fat is one of the big contributors to the LDL, the bad cholesterol. Okay. So eating non-animal derived fats can help to lower the LDL. So if we're having high LDL and we're doing all the other things that we know to do, we're exercising, right? We're getting a balanced diet. We're getting good, managing our carbs, right? Making sure that we're not eating a whole lot of sugar, and the LDL is still elevated, it may be that we've got to do something else to try to minimize that LDL. I hope that helped with your question there, Florence. Okay. And then Shanna says, my mom has type 2 diabetes, and I had 3 out of 4 babies at 38 weeks that were barely under 9 pounds. I know I'm at risk. Okay. So for you, Shanna, and for everyone else who's out there, as we went through those risk factors, okay, the point of those risk factors was to let you or make you aware, okay? It was to make you aware. It does not give you a death sentence, right? Because there's some things that we can't change. Those non-modifiable ones, we can't change those. But the modifiable ones we can. And when we do the best that we can in those areas, then that's the best that we can do, right? So having large babies, having a family history, right, puts us at increased risk. But then now, okay, what are we doing? Right? What are we going to do to try to help minimize our progression to diabetes and our progression to prediabetes, to diabetes, and all the other things that we just described? Awesome. I love it. Love it. Love it. Let's see. What else do we got? Oh, and this one was from Nita. She said, what kind of coaching? And we answered that, I think, a little while ago. Awesome. All right. So let's go back over here. Let's see what else we got. Ooh, did I leave that up? All right, so that one's there. All right, so let's see. So why don't we grab this question? Let's see if I can bring it up. Okay. Does prediabetes always develop into diabetes? And that's the question that I just kind of answered for Shanna, or she didn't ask that question, but I added the question to her, right? And the answer there is no, right? It does not have to lead to type 2 diabetes, right? Because we can do things that will decrease our chances or decrease our risk for developing into type 2 diabetes, right? Let's see what else we got. What are the most important steps to stop prediabetes from developing, from progressing? And so the steps that we want to do, and I have, this thing that I do and I talk about, we want to make sure that we're managing our diet, number one. Because remember, we talked about the fact that we're flooding the system. All right, let's get this off here so I can talk about it. All right, so what can we do? What are steps that we can take? So we want to manage our diet. And so we don't want to do things that will enhance our insulin resistance, things that will increase our weight, right? So we want to make sure that we're heading in the other direction. We want to make sure that we're getting good sleep. We're managing our stress, our anxiety, our depression. We want to make sure that we're exercising, right? You remember that car that we talked about, right? How do we get energy out of a car? We drive it, right? Right, go, and then you have to go back and fill it up, right? You got to put gas in it. Well, the body uses what? Sugar for energy. So how do we get sugar energy out of the body? By driving it. And what's that called in people terms? That's right. Yes, that's called exercise and activity, right? So making sure that we are active, and that was the idea behind that sedentary lifestyle. Now, let me jump in here. Let me say to everybody, if you're listening right now, if you're watching the replay, right? If somebody sent this video to you, let me say, I know, right? I live it every day, right? That exercise, sometimes it doesn't fit into your schedule. It doesn't fit into your life, right? Because we've gotten so used to doing some things. And a lot of times, if you are trying to go somewhere to exercise, it does not happen, right? Because people don't like to do things that are outside of their normal routine. Let me say that. Yeah. Because so if you got a gym membership at the gym that's 30 miles from you, and you got to come home first to drop your stuff off and then go to the gym, guess what? Right? That's a membership that, those folks are getting your money. Right? So do it so that it's simple, right? Don't come home first and then go, right? Go from work, right? Bring your stuff with you. Or at the house, find something in the house that you can do. Walk around the house, go up and down the stairs if you want to, right? But find a time, set some time aside so that you can spend some time investing. That's the word, investing in your health. Because if you do that, then we're good. Okay. All right. Love it. Love it. All right. Let's see. Let's grab another question here. Is genetic testing useful for diabetes? Is genetic testing useful for diabetes? We do a lot of screening. And I think the screening that we have so far is appropriate for the disease process, right? So I think catching it early is probably where we need to be. Are there genetic tests that we can do? There sure are. They have, testing for people who are twins, and you can tell. You have testing for people, and you can determine whether they are at increased risk for a particular disease. Those, for diabetes, I don't know that I necessarily recommend that. I say if we do a good job of screening, then we get what we need. Okay. All right. Let's see. Can you prevent diabetes if it is genetic? Okay. So this kind of goes back to some of the other comments that we've made, that there are things that you cannot change. But having a genetic predisposition, having a family history of diabetes, does not say that you have to develop diabetes. And so that's the thing that I want to continue to say, is that we have the ability to do things to minimize. Can we 100% guarantee that if you eat, I don't know, I'm gonna pick on something, right? So don't get mad at me. So you eat spinach all the time, don't eat anything else but spinach. You live in the gym, you sleep all day. Well, not because you're in the gym, right? But can we guarantee that if you do that you will not develop diabetes? The answer is no, we can't. But can we guarantee that we can minimize it? Oh yeah, right? Right? And can we catch it early? Can we delay it? Sure. All those things we can do. But can we guarantee that you won't get it? No, we can't. And if you can do that, then we gonna be rich, right? We'll be sitting on an island somewhere, right? Come on. Sitting on an island. All right. So let's take a minute here, guys, and let's go and let's get our thought for today. All right. So, my son is growing, and I love to watch him grow. And sometimes he'll catch me kind of just staring at him or staring at a picture of when he was young. And it just is so beautiful for me to kind of remember that little kid and to see now that he is developing and he has his own interests. And of course, I go to hug him and he doesn't let us kiss him. Well, he doesn't let me kiss him anymore. Right. And it is just so exciting to watch him grow and watch him develop. One of the beautiful things that we see in our lives is that we plant a seed. We have a child. We have an idea. We start a business. We try to make a friend. We try to develop a routine. And to watch that grow and flourish is beautiful. And to see, for instance, in my son, to watch him now and have conversations with him, right? Because there was this little kid that we were putting things in, right? We were planting those seeds. We're teaching him. We're all the things. And to see him now is amazing. Now, all the things that we've been talking about are things that you are cultivating. You're making deposits in. You're putting a little bit of time in. You're developing a routine. You have that idea. You had that idea about that business you wanted to start, and you started it this year. You had that idea about going to the gym, and you started it this year. And we're now ending the first quarter, right? When we're evaluating to see, okay, all businesses, right? They're evaluating to see, hey, how are things going? Are we making progress in the things that we're cultivating? Some of you may be getting a little tired, right? You may be getting a little tired, but I want to encourage you right here, right now, tonight, to not get tired. Because just as I watched that kid, just like I see him and I'm so excited about what he's doing and what is going on. One day you're going to see the fruit. You're going to see the benefit. You're going to see the result of all the time, all the energy, all the thoughts that you're putting into that thing that you're trying to grow. So don't get tired. As you're thinking tonight, we're talking about diabetes, all the things that are going on in your life, all the risk factors that you may have. Don't get tired, right? Because as you deal with them one after another, ultimately, you're going to see the fruit of what you're doing. So I'm waiting, right? I can't wait to see what we have in store for us, right? As we watch him grow. And I can't wait to see what you are going to develop, what you're going to produce. As we go through this year, we're doing it together here on this channel, right? We are educating, empowering, and encouraging you to take charge, not just of your health, but of your life, so you can live a healthy, fulfilling life. Okay. So, Maria, if you would go ahead and put that link in the comments, right? And I'm going to pop over here and let me see if I can share my screen real quick, because I want you guys to see this website. Let's see. And Maria's going to put that link in the comments for you. And it is the website that I was telling you about. It's the National. Okay, here we go. And get rid of all my other stuff so you don't see all my crazy. All right. Okay, let's see now if I can. Let's try to share it. Okay, yeah. So it is the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Disease. And here is the test that they have, right? A diabetes risk test, right? And so you go to the website and you click on this link right here, right? And when you do that, it comes up. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Oops. Yeah. So yeah. So they're talking about the Ukraine here. But if you click on that, it'll come up for this. You can do it for someone else, or you can do it for yourself. Okay. And you can click on it and you go through these questions. How old are you? Right. So, right. Are you man or woman? Right. Do you have a mother, father, sister, brother with diabetes? Right. Have you been diagnosed with high blood pressure? You click on that. Right. Are you physically active? Right. I'm going to say no. Right. So and then your race. OK, Black, African American, height. Right. And I'm in there. And then you put your information in and they will send you your results. Okay, they will send you your results there. And that will help you as you try to determine your risk of diabetes. Maria, do you have, let me see if I can pop it in there. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so I'll pop that in there so you guys can have it. Okay, risk test. So I want you guys, right, to take that link. So copy it, please. And I want you to share it with as many people as you can, right? So share it with your family, with your friends, put it on your social media, because a lot of you are out there in social media, right? So we want you to let people know that they can go and they can get, they can evaluate. And then it'll tell you how to score it. In fact, let me see if I can back up for a minute. Yeah, let me go back to that screen. Right. So if you go back to this screen and you click on this button right here, that link, it will actually give you a PDF version of this. Right. So say all the questions, you see all the questions there. It also gives you a BMI, and then it tells you how to score it. If I can zoom in a little bit, it tells you how to score it. For some reason, I can't go down to the bottom of this. Okay. But it tells you how to score it at the bottom. Right. And what the scores mean. Right. So once again, guys, please share it with as many people as you can and let them know to go there. Please like this video. Please go ahead and share this video with your family, with your friends. It's a very important topic. We want to make sure that we know and that we are sharing with the folks that we love how to are they at risk? Okay. And then we will do additional shows now to talk about how do we mitigate some of those risk factors, right? So how do we prevent from getting to prediabetes and so forth? All right. So let's see. Oh, look at one of my favorite people is here. Let me see if I can get my mouse back over here. And guys, hi, love. This is my sister, y'all. That's right. That's my big sister right there. Hi, Natalie. What's up, yo? All right. She said Spanish covered chocolate. Yeah, Spanish covered chocolate. All right. Well, guys, as always, we are so excited that you've been here. We're excited that you came. We're excited that you are engaged with us. We love to see you on the channel, right? What do we do here? We educate. We encourage. We empower you to take charge of your health, avoid complications, and live a healthy, fulfilling life. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood from Diabetes and Endocrine Wellness Center and the Light Away, educating the public for a better you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week at the next video. Let's get some music and let's get on out of here.